evil, look in your dictionary and see the synonyms of the word black. There's always something degrading and low and sinister. Look at the word white. It's always something pure, high, and clean. But I want to get the language right tonight.
Brainwashed the so-called Negro to the point of believing in white supremacy so much that today some Negroes think that they're not making progress or they don't have anything unless they're living in a white neighborhood, unless they have the white man's neighborhood, a seat in the white man's school, or a position on the white man's job, and they even have taken it so far they don't think they're successful in life unless they have a white woman as a wife.
Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. A long way from home.
Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child, a long way from home.
Martin Luther King Jr. said that human progress is neither automatic nor inevitable. Every step towards the goal of justice requires sacrifice, suffering, and struggle. The tireless exertions and passionate concerns of dedicated individuals. There is a misconception that black people who live in the hood, ghetto, or impoverished communities are unintelligent. On the contrary, you find some of the most brilliant minds in low-income communities. Black History Month means more to me than just commemorating famous black activists. Our history is still alive, and I'm afraid that my generation doesn't care anymore. We are people of strength, pride, resilience, honor, and beauty. Think about it.
I feel like our generation now today doesn't have the what they had back in the day, because social media and everything has just messed up society today. Because what happened to the traditional people speaking to each other, is people writing letters to each other, people going face-to-face talking, and people being cool and with their neighbors. Now today everything is social media. Some people on social media are celebrities because they have so many followers, or people on social media become a whole different person. They can't even communicate face to face.
Because of the state and condition that this world is in, our young black youths have a difficulty understanding the importance of love, support, and being connected with themselves as well as with their family. They're struggling for a sense of healthy identity, trying to be able to bond and be secure amongst who they are and what direction in life do they want to go. And with all these different barriers and challenges as relates to unhealthy peer pressure, you have the influx of drugs, you have their perception of how they should have relationships with their friends and with their family members. They're torn apart in terms of their own identity and struggle. They have a difficult understanding of what are some of the career goals for them to have in this life. How they're going to end up being able to accomplish it. Who's going to help guide them, support them, nurture them. Being able to have a vision for their life. Legal drugs and illegal drugs is being infiltrated in our bodies, that's causing us to have all types of psychotic type of illnesses and so forth. Our minds are so confused. And so with youth today, they have to understand the importance and the value of themselves.
Yes, a lot of them are in college, but they don't take college seriously. They don't respect college. They don't respect the institutions that were here before they were. They feel everything needs to be given to them. They don't feel they need to work for anything. They are about themselves. They're not about the community. It's about what I'm going to get and how quickly I can get it. And it doesn't matter how I get it as long as I can. And it's unfortunate because they'll find out as they get older and they start working and living on their own and having families, etc., that it's a hard life. It's hard out here to do what you need to do. We are our own worst enemies sometimes in terms of being helpful and respectful. So, you're going to encounter a lot of issues. It's not just the white man. We do ourselves a disservice as well.
Man, things are just getting so worse, and everything's getting bad, and the youth aren't as bad as they were when I was coming up. I don't know if that's necessarily true. I think the only thing that's really changed is that what's going on today was going on yesterday, but now we have Instagram. Now we have iPhones, smartphones. Now we have Twitter. Now we have Facebook. Everybody has a camera on their particular phone. And so it's almost like there's more exposure to what's going on now compared to, what was going on before. Like now, information and communication is instant. Whereas before, maybe it took a little long to, have those kind of communications and people didn't know about it. So, I'm not convinced that things are necessarily as different and or, worse today than they were yesterday. Because I remember I had a conversation, barbershop talk, about, some individual in the barbershop was talking about how, the portrayal of black women and black people is just, so amazing and risque now, and there's homosexuals on television and all, you're like, the end of the world is coming, everything is so wild. And I was like, and they were around my age, I'm 36, and they're like, yeah, it was so different back in the days. And I was like, hey, I'm from Oakland, California. Have you ever heard of Too Short? Have you ever heard of Tupac? Have you ever heard of NWA? Do you know what the word NWA means? I was like, I remember watching Prince on television when I was like 10, 11, 12 years old with his butt out. You know what I mean? On national television. I remember a guy named Boy George when I was coming up in the 80s and the 90s, and it was a guy who, kind of, I guess, dressed in drag and had a kind of androgynous look, kind of looked like a female, and etc. And so that stuff existed then and it exists now, but maybe, there's just a kind of overexposure now.
We focus more on negativity. I'm talking from coming from shows Sanford and Sons and Martin, where we have a healthy couple, healthy relationships, and have our friends, and we do things that make us happy, do things to make us accept and appreciate life and appreciate the ones that surround us. To reality shows, Love and Hip Hop, and Flavor of Love, where these shows nowadays, they tend to portray such negative acts that we're intrigued to, that we basically give all our focus point and all our attentions to. Yes, the media is going to make their money because it's a business, but at the same time, we're affecting ourselves, we're affecting our community, the younger students, the younger generations, 10-year-olds, 9-year-olds, they focus on these negative acts from us adults.
Whether the children are black or white, you have to readjust to this new dynamic. Some children handle it better than others, but I think for our black children, it's particularly difficult, particularly when the father is not in the home and the mother has the burden of being both mother and father. And even if the father is giving child support in the children's lives, as a kid, nothing made me happier when I would wake up in the morning and both my parents were in their bedroom. That made my day. We have countless children who've never seen that, have no idea what that's even like. I was so privileged to have my father at dinner every night. I know some people who've never seen their father at any meal.
Honestly, I feel that we all don't understand the concept of what it means to, what's the word I'm looking for? Love on one another. Instead of tearing down everybody else, be it social networks, or in person. It's like we don't uplift everybody like we should. I think that's one of the major things that is the negative aspect of our generation today. Not to say that I'm perfect and that I do it all the time, but I try to encourage people. I try not to see the negative in them. I think that's one of the main things that's hurting us right now.
Referring to females as the B word and even referring to each other as the N word, it just promotes negativity and like the wrong thinking, because we think it's okay to call each other that when really it's not.
The generations that we're in today is all about the next party. You know, we're all about socializing, and instead of improving ourselves, working on the betterment of ourselves. And it's an issue. It is an issue because we're not focusing on short-term and long-term goals. We're living this life of live fast, die young, or this YOLO life, you only live once so I can do what I want. You know, that is something that we advertise, that is something that we promote, and it's really affecting our community and the generations after us. So I feel like we need to understand that life is bigger than just the second that is granted to us today.
All our students want to be entertained. Well, you know, learn to entertain yourself, read a book. You know, talk to somebody face to face instead of on Facebook or on Twitter. Have a real conversation so that, you know, you can learn something about somebody else and realize it's not always about you.
For black youth, to what we become to say to be heartless, their understanding and interpretation of expressing their emotions, expressing their thoughts, has been so poisoned that it's been challenging and difficult for it to do that. So then therefore, they do it in a different fashion that is not healthy for them. Minister Farrakhan once said, you see the movie, it's called Menace to Society. In Menace to Society, there's a Roman numeral 2 in the title. So he said, if this is menace to society, what does that tell you? Well, if there's a John the Second, then there must be a John the First. So if we are being menace to society, who is really menace number 1? Who are we really modeling after? Black youth are modeling after white folks who are doing the exact same thing but on a bigger scale. As we go and we bully and drop bombs in many of the countries, as we go and we torture people without any justifiable cause, when we go and you see police brutality and you see these police officers getting off scot-free, you have a license to kill, you have a license to harm, you have a license to rob, you have a license to take what's not yours. You have a license to lie and manipulate and engage in technology and deceive the peoples, and it becomes justifiable. It becomes the norm. But black youth are picking up those Eurocentric characteristics, and they are following those patterns of menace number 1. So as they engage in that, they then lose the knowledge base of themselves because they are becoming someone else. They're not only they're becoming someone else that is deadly for them, they're becoming someone else that they really do not understand. And so that caused mental health related issues, or what people call mental health disorders. So what we need to do with black youth, we need to properly guide them in a direction of understanding who they are, feeling good about their identity, and redispelling the myth and challenging their value systems, challenging their thought processes, challenging their reasonings, challenging their judgments, and helping them to really have healthy lifestyles.
To it. I personally believe that the generation now, their drive is completely different. Like we have a sense of wanting better for ourselves, wanting to do better, wanting to be better. So in that sense, we're going to these colleges. We're trying to do the best that we can do so that we can come out and influence a better generation in a new age, a new coming for the new youth that's coming up.
Advantages is the technology that we have, that we're using, the fact that a lot of our generation is, as though it seems that a lot of us aren't in school and doing, you know, on our grind and in college, a lot of us are. I mean, a lot of people I know are on their grind, got internships, jobs, in school, and like really trying to make a better future for themselves than what their parents may have had, you know, during their time and their age. So I feel like that's the positive that we bring into our country or our society or what have you. But I feel like we can do it 10 times more, and 10 times more better than what we've done so far.
Our generation is trying to help students understand that politics really do affect them, and you know, who you vote for does affect you directly. You know, through things like Rock the Vote and different campaigns where they're putting different things on social networks to help people to understand how important it is for your voice to be heard and that you do make a difference.
Actually seeing black students in college, a lot more black students in college than before, because if you see the rates, it's more percentage of African Americans that are actually doing something with their lives. You see all these HBCUs are full to capacity, and we're actually building new schools and things like that. We having grants and to build new buildings because there are a lot more African Americans that are graduate from high school and actually going to college and trying to be positive with their life. Back in the day, you can have a high school degree or a GED and you can just get a job, but nowadays you to get a job or to be in the working world, you actually have to have some type of degree, which is a positive thing. I see a lot more role models in communities, people that graduate that go back and give to the communities.
The youth could take chances that parents couldn't take, because during the civil rights time of Dr. King, if parents were involved, they could have their mortgage recalled by the bank. They could lose their jobs, which meant loss of home, income. Children have nothing to lose. So many times when we look at the films, Dr. King surrounded himself with youth because they didn't have anything to lose. They could get kicked out of school, they could lose their jobs, but they weren't the primary breadwinner. They did make it difficult for their parents because there was criticism and ostracism, but still. And then also when you're young, you think you're invincible. So you'll make challenges and you'll dare life. And to have taken on the establishment in the 50s and 60s, you can make that dare. And then also as you get older, life humbles you more. You take less risk. You're not as adventuresome. One of the things I do admire about the current generation, you're not stuck in traditional jobs. When I came along, preaching, teaching, to some extent medicine, but young people have such a variety of things. Aerospace engineering, all kinds of investment vehicles you could go into, take risks with money, and change jobs 2, 3, 4, 5 times before you're 30, unheard of. In the old days, you would find a nice job and you were afraid to move.
You look specifically in the 50s, you had black youth that was willing to let their parents know that they want to help. They see their parents marching and protesting and boycotting businesses and dealing with all these oppressive issues, dealing with racism that has been inflicted upon our community. Black parents were out on the forefront. And so the black youth said, we want to help. We want to be a part of that. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 years old. They out there on their front line. And so many of them marched. Many of them protested. Many of them rallied. And many of them went to jail. Many of them died and sacrificed their lives in order to make life better. Yes, and many times they were scared. But at the same time, they end up persevering because they knew that their life was more important than just of their own. It was a bigger picture. They was preparing for the future. And so they wanted to be part of that struggle. So black youth did a lot of the things during the civil rights era that the older adults did. And they played a vital role in us being here today.
My grandmother calls us the popcorn generation. We want everything quick. So we're a generation where we'll see something on the news and take it for what it is. Whereas maybe back in the 60s, if they heard something, they were going to go and make sure they did the research and make sure they knew every single issue that was going on with a bill or that was going on with civil rights, and they were going to fight it, or if they were agree with it, they were going to push it. And I think that's the thing where we kind of got lackadaisical, is because now we get at this point of rest. Like, it's okay, well, we can get a job now and we can work with white people now, we can go to school with white people now, but we're still not there. And I think that's the problem with our generation, is that we're really lackadaisical when it comes to pushing forward.
Us being young African American people, especially being here at a HBCU, something that we need to do is just reach out more to our youth, to our peers, because I mean, I feel like, you know, being at where we are in our lives, we're seen as like the new leaders of what is to be. And if you really think about it, you know, for like a lot of us that have kids, they're the ones that are gonna have to, like, they're gonna have a lot of suffering if we don't do right by them. So we need to, like, really reach out and let them know what ways to go and what ways not to go.
There's a lot of black youth that are doing tremendously a lot of great work. A lot of black youth who is on that path. A lot of black youth who is doing a lot of great things to serve and help their community. Being very active in their community, doing very well in school, being very creative and inventive. They're doing a lot of great work. So don't want to make it seem like the black youth as a whole is doing bad, because black youth as a whole is not doing bad at all. But we have to look at the balance of both and put it all into a perspective and realize that our youth needs to have a central focus, a central vision to uplift themselves spiritually and uplift their people spiritually, because humanity is automatically going to benefit. And they have to understand that they are leaders. They need to be the leaders and get back to their natural throne.
Sometimes you have to cut stuff off, even though it's popular. But that takes moral courage now. That takes risk that I talked about earlier. Sometimes you have to say no to things. You can't say yes to everything because it's popular. And what your generation can give those coming up after you is the moral courage and strength to say no to some things. You can't say yes to everything and then expect good things to come out of it. Then you have to, in your reading, you have to read everything. A lot of times people don't want to read the old great classics, but if you want to unpollute your mind with some of the stuff that's been polluted, you have to read other kinds of books. And tragically, even some things are going on in the church, which were unthinkable years ago. We've allowed to take the church over. We don't have modesty in dress anymore. I see people going to church like they're going to the go-go club. Something wrong with that. I remember as a kid, we had church clothes, we had school clothes, we had play clothes, and we had evening clothes. We never got those clothes mixed up.
It's important for young black youth to be critical thinkers. It's important for them to be able to analyze, strategize, and execute reality for themselves as well as for their peoples. It's vital. It's vital for them to understand the importance of gaining universal knowledge, for them to study everything that exists. But not only you just study it, you find methods of how to utilize that and make life better for everyone. So you have to start to do things a little bit differently. You have to start to study you. Understand that knowledge of yourself. Start to master the knowledge of yourself. So when you're looking at trueness of biology, anthropology, sociology, psychology, when you're looking at that, you're seeing how does that apply to my existence? How to understanding the laws of nature apply to my existence? How do studying the stars apply to my existence? Just like how does studying the ant applies to my existence? And what do I need to do with that in order to build the legacy for those who's going to come after me?
We have to learn to dissect the information received. It's all about how you perceive and receive the information. You see what I'm saying? when you get the information, dissect it, break it down, understand what it is and what it could do in the wrong hands.
Like in today's age, if you talk about racism and discrimination, back in the day it was more prevalent, you could see it. So now in today's age you have to be able to dissect things and analyze on a different level, because racism and discrimination is just it's secret now. So, and if you don't know what it is when you see it, and you don't know how to analyze it and dissect it, then you will fall victim to it.
Just because I said as a professor, as an authority, doesn't by definition mean that what I'm communicating is the truth or so. Same thing with what you read in a book, what you see on television, and even the messages you might get from an imam, a preacher, a pastor, a rabbi, etc. And so the question becomes, here is some information being communicated, through some kind of medium. And the question becomes, is it the truth? And or what does it mean to me?
I often say one of the problems what's wrong with the world, and it's very simple, is obedience. You can't always do what you want all the time. And I think even if you're not obedient to yourself, can't eat everything, can't smoke everything, can't drink everything, can't be seen everywhere. And particularly after you get a certain age. I have some friends of mine who are my age who want to go to go-go clubs. Can't do that. That's for your grandchildren. So you have to be obedient even to yourself. And obedience goes a long way. I know it's a bad word these days. People hate obedience. I see people on the job. I'm not going to do that because that's not my job. But your job is to make the organization work. So you have to pitch in and do your share, and sometimes somebody else's share.
We need to read. Reading is fundamental, and I know people make that as a joke, but you can't just accept what you hear. You have to get into the facts and read what's going on, not just accept things that people tell you, because there's just a lot of politicism that goes on in the world, and people will just tell you anything, and you really need to find things out for yourself to make sure that you know what the truth is and that you are always seeking the truth.
Be risk takers, be bold and daring, and make your life more fruitful. Think about it.
Think about it.
I want to get the language so right that everybody here will cry out, yes, I'm black, I'm proud of it, I'm black and beautiful.